Okay, let me start. Okay, nice. Hey guys, welcome to Moving Markets, right? So, this series is where we look at the key opportunities in the market for the week ahead, and also to learn about the very useful tricks and tips that that our guest speaker, Marcus Ng, from SocGen, will be sharing with us, right? So before we begin, just let me share with you guys that there's whether you're tuning in from YouTube or you're tuning in from Facebook, you can just send your questions through. We're monitoring the questions, we're monitoring the comments, right? This, as you know, is the first of a bi-weekly series, meaning that be every 2 weeks, we'll be inviting a new guest speaker to come in, right? Share their insights on the market, not only their insights on the market, but their insights into how they approach the markets, right? And this will be an ongoing series. So if you have comments, and especially feedback on how you think that we might improve, improve these sessions, right? Or if you have special requests on certain kind of guest speakers, you want us to try to reach out to an interview, right? Please leave in the comment section. We'll do our best to get to them, right? Otherwise, today, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we got Marcus Ng, right, from SocGen, to share with us a little bit more about the purpose of this series, right, and also a little bit about himself and his style of analyzing the markets. All right, so yeah, Marcus, thanks for joining us. Right, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and this series in particular?
Okay, hi everyone. Hi, thanks Desmond for just a quick introduction. So I am Marcus from Societe Generale, SocGen for short. Okay, so some of you must be wondering also, what has the French bank Societe Generale got to do with InvestingNote, got to do with doing this kind of series on InvestingNote platform. Well, SocGen, we are the product issuer. We are the leading product issuer of the DLC, the daily leverage certificates here on SGX securities market. So it is a short-term trading instrument that investors can use to capitalize on short trends in the market. So it is listed and traded on SGX securities market, where we are the product issuer, right? So we do this. We have brainstormed as to what are the marketing activities. We have been partnering InvestingNote for quite a while right now, for almost 4 years since the launch of DLCs in 2017. We have been partnering InvestingNote very closely, and this year we wanted to try something new, right? We wanted to try sort of a webcast session, but it's not going to be about SocGen per se. I am only here for the first session, the first series, just to give everyone a bit of introduction. I might appear once in a while during this series, but the main idea is really to invite guest speakers, whether is it from InvestingNote's platform, those key opinion leaders on InvestingNote platform, or even whether it is from outside of InvestingNote platform, some of the brokers, some of the remisers, as well as maybe even some of the retail traders out there, gurus out there who do their own YouTuber channels, etc. We do hope to invite some of these guest speakers to come on live on this session, just to give a bit of insights into how they trade, how they approach the market, and so as get to know them in a very casual interview, right? So today, I think we are going to do a bit of an interview session as well for today's session. But first off, we also want to make sure that we always value add to all those viewers out there who are tuning in by engaging our dear Desmond, who is a really good technician, technical analysis in his own rights, in his own domain, to also share with us some of his, technical analysis on some of the stocks that he's looking at, particularly in the Singapore and Hong Kong market. So unfortunately, we will not be looking at the US stock market, but we will be looking at the Singapore, Hong Kong, Asian stock markets. And he will be picking a few stocks just that he's interested in, and so give you his technical analysis on that. Right?
Right. Thank you, Marcus. All right. So, guys, before we begin, before all these kind of webinars, a little bit of a disclaimer, right? If you can trouble Ethan to just say, share my screen. All right. So yeah, a few things to take note of in this webinar and this webcast is that nothing herein should be considered as investment or financial advice, or any form of recommendation to sell, purchase or sell DLCs, or other securities mentioned. Any past performance or DLCs, or of the underlying assets is not indicative of future performance. Very important point to take note of, guys. Right. Of course, investing in DLCs and other securities carry risk. Right. So please see the issuer's website for further information and relevant risk. And lastly, DLCs are for specified investment products qualified investors only. Something which Marcus will touch on a little bit towards a little bit on later on, but it's an important thing that I feel that you guys should also take note of. Right. So, okay, now that we've got the disclaimer of the way, right, I just give you guys a little bit of an introduction to myself, a really quick 1 minute intro, right? So my name is Desmond Leong, right? I run the the award-winning research firm Everest Fortune Group. So we actually specialize in particularly in technical analysis, right? 2019, 2020, 2021 finalists for best FX research and best equity research, right? So today, right, I'll be giving you some of the key insights, right, onto some of the stocks that have caught my eye, especially in the Singapore Hong Kong space, right? Things that I think could be potentially a big areas of interest, right? Whether it's bullish or bearish kind of setups, right? I'll be looking into them, right? I'll be sharing. I mean, it's no secret that these days, these past few days, right, the Ukraine war, right, the conflict, right, and also the increase, I believe the what is it, regulatory pressure. Yes, regulatory pressure on China's tech sector, right. And these things have been causing the markets to be a lot more volatile, right, moving. For most of them, it tends to be a little bit more bearish, right. And then we're kind of trying to see now, right, if there are opportunities, right? If there are opportunities that we can look at, right? Particularly from a technical point of view, right? So today I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Won't be too much of a deep dive. I'll be sharing with you some insights on that. So agenda after this part, I'll be passing the time on to Marcus, where he'll be giving you some really juicy insights on how you can use the SocGen's DLC website to get even more deep insights into like the inflows and outflows. What are people interested in going in on for long positions, short positions? Where are people putting the money where the mouth is, right? So it'll be some pretty interesting stuff lined up today. I think if you use it properly, you combine both these technical analysis with this additional kind of institutional insights, it can really give you hopefully that edge over the market when trading. All right. So okay, now without further ado, let's just dive into. Let's just take a quick look at some of the stocks that I'm looking at. Okay, so I will alternate between bullish and bearish kind of setups that I've kind of observed. The first thing we're looking at here is our favorite DBS. Okay, DBS, we can see, okay, first things first, this is a 1 day chart. All right, guys, 1 day chart. So, every single bar here is a day. Now, what has happened for the past week? DBS has been more or less dropping like a rock, right? And most people are thinking, when might be a good opportunity to potentially enter DBS, right? Particularly the banking stocks, right? Where could be, where can you get a discount, right? I mean, it's dropping. You can't keep buying. It's like the traditional approach might be something like dollar cost averaging, right? Keep just going in more and more and more, but dollar cost the weakness of dollar cost averaging is that if it keeps dropping down, you keep dollar cost averaging in. Ideally, if you want to find the best time to key areas to potentially dollar cost average in, right, and especially this particular stock, right. So one thing I want to highlight, right, and it's something which I noticed for us technicians, this pattern here, right, is a very, very nice channel. It is it's actually a surprisingly nice channel on DBS. You can even stretch it all the way back and even it cuts a little bit over here, but if you go all the way back here, right, you can see how price has has bounced off it very nicely, right, bounce off very nicely, go up really nicely. It's now down here again, right, channel, right. And if anything's on the channel support, you know what to say, there's that little bit of bullish momentum, right. And I tend to place a particularly big focus on graphical setups, right. I mean, there's a lot of Fibonacci moving average and stuff, but if there's one thing that's universal, you show this to any trader and they look at a channel, right, they're going to look at it and they're like, yeah, kind of looks kind of bullish, right? Because even though prices drop pretty strongly, it's on a little bit of nice support. So what could we do over here, right? Some additional things which I will share with you. Don't worry if you don't fully understand some of the concepts, right? But I feel like it's important that I kind of let you know like some of the techniques we use when it comes to trading, right? One big thing that we like to do is we like to draw this thing called Fibonacci retracement from the bottom all the way to the top, right? And we notice that the big level here, the 23%. So Elliott wave technicians, right? Anyone has Elliott wave experience or Fibonacci experience, market structure, you know that 23% is the big level that price needs to break, to push prices down. Currently, price is testing this 23%. Price is testing this ascending support pretty nice. There's this little nice area of pullback support here, and another nice support level here, right? So it's a lot of things kind of lining up there, right, to suggest that, let me just turn this to green, right, to suggest that, where is it? Yes, turn this green. To suggest that there's a little bit of bullish support over here, right? Bullish support. We are thinking that there is a pretty nice potential that price might actually do a small little bounce up here, maybe a recovery to this level, right, might be enough, right? So this is the first insight which I'm looking in on, right? And with trading, right, the beautiful thing about this is that you can be trading it or you can be investing it, two very different points. Trading it, you're just playing, more or less playing the fluctuations. Investing, investing is more towards holding it for a long term. You think it's going to increase a lot further, right? So it can be used for both cases. DLCs in particular, we should be touching on later, very useful for particularly short-term leverage kind of trading. So if you think that price might do a small little bounce up to maybe this level over here, this resistance level, right? That could be a potentially good point where you can get in on a DLC, but more on that later. Right. So if you're thinking that price might bounce up to here, right, this is the first key setup I'm looking at right now. With if you were to look at the equivalent on DLCs, right, for those of you guys, which I'm just going to touch on a little bit now, in case when Marcus covers it later, you get, you have a little bit more idea about how looking at the stock in this case, right, DBS translates to how it looks like on DLC, right? So all analysis is always on, no one ever analyzes a DLC, right? There's a lot less of that. You actually analyze the underlying, in this case, DBS. Once you have an idea whether you want to go long or you want to go short, right? That's where you kind of go over to the DLC website. In this case, we go to dlc.socgen.com, go to product, go to search, right? And how I would be taking this trade, for example, I'll go type in DBS, right? You got DBS here, you got the long and you got the short. So because we're thinking long, right, I'll be clicking the one with the little star beside it, go a little bit long, right? And this is where, depending on long and short, you can just buy or sell this. Usually, if you are going long, you buy this. If you're going short, you also buy the short equivalent, 5 times short. 5 times here means that it amplifies the move effectively almost 5 times. So if DBS really bounces as nicely as we think it's going to do, and it goes from 31 to 34, which is a 10% rise, right? If you got the DLC 5 times long, it's equivalent to almost like getting in, a 50% move, right? Just to put things in a very, very layman, simplistic kind of perspective, right? So first thing, take note of DBS. Being very wary of time, so I'll share my top bearish kind of setup, right? So this is a bullish one. What I really, really like about the bearish setup is, although I really love them, but yeah, Tencent, right, is having a hard time, right? And I'm going to show you what is the key thing I'm looking out on for Tencent, right? So each of these bars represent 1 day, and look at Tencent, right? From here, price bounce nicely, price bounce nicely, price bounce nicely, price bounce nicely, but from there, price has broken. Right? So what was previously a really, really nice support, but that's holding prices up, right? You can see it bounce nicely here, bounce nicely here, bounce nicely here, right? It kind of slowed down a bit and now it broke there, right? So that to us is the first sign that, hey, a big move might be happening over here. Okay? So this bearish, we call it bearish trend line breakout. That's the first thing. That's the first kind of, if you say red flag, we're looking at, right? Second thing is this little line over here, which I'm going to draw. Now, why do I draw this line? Why did I pick this as the starting level, starting point? You notice how price reacted off this level? It's what we call in technical analysis an overlap level, right? Because price was holding up, holding up, holding up above it, holding up, holding up above it, holding up, and it finally broke, right? So this is what we call double confirmation, right? We got a trend line that's finally, broken out. Price finally broke out of a trend line. Price has finally broke out of this nice little support that was holding it in place. Okay, so we got these two reasons that suggest that, okay, price is dropping pretty strongly, and the potential that it might drop to is actually this level over here, right? Because this will be the next key area of support, right? Price has traditionally found support here multiple times, right? So it's more or less kind of like a free fall towards this level over here, right? And what happens when there's in this case, ideally, it's a little bit expensive now, right? But you'll be looking for something like, price to make a little bit of a pullback. Then, if you can get in at a better price, that could be a potential level where it can kind of drop down towards. Okay, but now, so one of the questions that you might be thinking is, okay, shorting Tencent, how possible is that, right? And that is where DLCs are actually pretty handy, right? You can come in here, same thing, you come here, you come to products, you search, and you just search for something like Tencent, right? And you notice that there's a 5 times long and a 5 times short, right? Look for the most sensitive one, and this is where you can click on the 5 times short. And if you later, Marcus will be touching on it a bit on how to get started with this kind of stuff. But if you want, in this case, you think that, all right, wait for Tencent to rise all the way up to here. When it's at the 422 level about there, you're like, okay, time to go short on Tencent. First method is to short Tencent directly. Second method is to go to your DLC account, look for the equivalent 5 times short, and then you buy it, right? Yes, you buy it. You don't sell it. You buy the 5 times short because it's essentially getting you into a position of going short, right? And once it goes down far enough, to hit your target, and you're like, I made enough money. That is where you click sell. As in, like, you close off your position, right? So this is one of the kind of, I guess, the handy things when it comes to trading both in these volatile markets where it's going up, it's going down, right? You're looking at stocks you can buy at discount. You're banking on stocks, so it's just going to drop like a rock, right? This DLCs allow you to play the fluctuations in a leverage style very, very effectively. Whether it's up or whether it's down. One day you're down, one day you're up. It's very easy to play the fluctuations with this. So just one of the things that Marcus will be touching on a little bit later. Right,
yeah,
but yeah,
so let me just interrupt you a bit. So Desmond, right, over there, I think so just to be clear, you can't buy and sell the DLCs on the website itself.
Oh yeah,
there,
of course, yeah.
When you click the buy and sell button, so we do have that buy and sell button to just show you, which are the brokers that do offer the DLCs, which is largely all of them. So all the retail brokers do offer the DLCs as long as you're SIP qualified. You can go there and go into their trading platform and trade, but you can use our website, dlc.societe.com, for all the information you need about the DLCs, the movement of the underlying asset as well. Then you just need to have another screen, on the broker platform to key in the stock code and your price on your order, and then you can click buy over there on the broker platform. Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's a good point, Marcus. Thanks. Right, it's like when you click the buy, I'll say, yeah, these are brokers that support it. So I'll be leaving Marcus to touch a little bit on it later.
It's more than those brokers, but yeah, it's basically as long as you have a securities brokerage account with any of the brokers, retail brokers around, you will be able to see the DLCs on the trading platform itself as well.
Okay. All right, that's awesome. So, so thanks for that, Marcus. Right now, being very aware of time. Right, I've covered two of the main things. Right, I feel that both long and short positions are kind of potentially long and short kind of setups, potentially kind of look at. Right, I kind of want to pass the time on to Marcus. Right, where I can share a little bit more about particularly not only just this, we're looking at it from a technical perspective now, right? But when you're looking, what other useful tips, not in this institutional space, what can you share with us, like on how you can further improve, give yourself the edge in your trading strategy, right? Some of the useful tips that it has, right? And yeah, so Marcus, I'm gonna pass the time over to you to share with us a little bit about that.
Hey, thanks a lot, Desmond. So I think Desmond touched on both DBS and Tencent, right? So I think we'll look at some of the the websites. So I think on the dlc.socgen website, if you go under just now what Desmond mentioned, under products, under search, you'll be able to see the list of DLCs that's available, right? And okay, today the highest turnover are definitely the ones on the long DLC, even though the underlying asset are all down. So the market has been quite bearish in terms of the sentiment lately, largely because of the whole Russia-Ukraine crisis. But also it started before that, since mid of February, where there is the ongoing China property debt price crisis, but also there were some fears of new regulatory clampdowns by the Chinese government on the tech sector or the larger sectors as a whole, and that has led to some of the Hong Kong stocks, especially the tech ones, to go on a downtrend ever since the mid of February, right? And today itself, you see Tencent is also down by quite a bit. Let's look into one of the Tencent long DLC. Tencent is down by almost 3% today, and therefore the Tencent long DLC, 5 times long DLC, is also down around there by 5 times of that, right? So there is the Tencent long DLCs that today one of the highest turnover. Well, it could be people buying on the dip as well. Some people, that's what I mentioned just now, that there could be a retracement, right? Before actually he is looking to short it per se. So some people could be playing that retracement and buying on that dip using the 5 times long DLC, Tencent long DLC. So one nifty tool to see how does the price of the DLC, which is priced at 20 cents roughly around there, move in line with the underlying stock, right? Tencent stock. So over here is our price matrix. You can see over here. So Tencent yesterday on Friday closed at $400, right? And then that's a previous day close at about 403 Hong Kong dollars. Right now it is at about 391, right? Okay, so you can see over here the price of the underlying stock and the corresponding price of the DLC over here, right? And how it moves. So if Tencent sort of goes further down to falls further today to about minus 5%, right? It falls to 383 Hong Kong dollars today. Then you will see that the 5 times long Tencent DLC will fall further to 16 or 17 cents, roughly around there. But if instead Tencent rebounds today, a very sharp rebound, it moves back up to plus 5%. It goes up to $423 today. You'll see that the Tencent 5 times long Tencent DLC will go up to 28 cents over here. Okay, so that's where the bid and offer will be. The bid and offer will be at 28 cents. So investors, you can use this price matrix for you to see very easily how does this Tencent move in line with the underlying, how does this DLC move in line with the underlying stock. For each of the DLC, you'll be able to find the individual price matrix that you can see the different corresponding movement of the underlying stock versus the DLC over here. All right. And I think we wanted to just share a bit about the fund flows for DLCs itself over the last 5 trading days. Last week was particularly bearish as well. In fact, the last 2 weeks have been very bearish globally on the global stock markets. So we do see quite a bit of. So you can look at it here. You can click the last 5 trading days. You can see what are the net inflows in terms of the long DLC over here over the last 5 days. So this means that if you see a green color plus sign, means that people have been buying into this long DLC, right? If you see negative minus over here, negative in red over here, you mean that people are selling back the DLC back to us, the issuer, to cover their positions, right? So this is the 5 days of long DLC net fund flow, and this is the 5 days short DLC's net fund flow over here. So over the last 5 trading days, you can see people have been buying into the CMSKI, the DBS, and the Singtel, Singapore underlying ones on the DLCs, and also some of the BYD as well, BYD long DLCs over here. While some of them have been selling back also the short DLC, right? So this is largely profit taking, probably, since given that the CMSKI has been falling over the last 2 weeks, they has been falling, and so some profit taking over here as well on CMSKI as well as on EV over here. So you can sort this to see what the fund flow been like over the last 5 trading days for individual underlines. You can even select, some of the particular underlines you want to see over here. So in the last 5 days, both have been selling back the long and short DLCs. So you can't really tell much over here, but sometimes if you see a very large inflow or large outflow in terms of the funds, that could give you a bit of indication of what people are interested in buying or selling, whether is it the long DLC or the short DLC over here. Yep. So this is just a nifty tool for you guys to see. But under our market section, you can see there's many different things that you can look at as well in terms of long-short ratio, as well as even on the Singapore stock fund flows. We have indicated, taken from SGX the data to help you display to see, how has the fund flow been like over weekly fund flow been like for some of the large cap names on Singapore stock market over the past few weeks, as well as the Southbound Stock Connect in terms of the fund flows for the underlying stock itself, right? Tencent, Meituan over here. Okay, so I think that's just a bit of an insight into how to, what are some of the tools available, the price matrix for you to see the intraday movement of how the DLC will move with the underlying stock, as well as some of the fund flows movement for you to identify a bit more of the shorter to mid-term, like what the trend been like over the last week or the last few weeks in terms of underlying stock for you to gauge some trends in the market.
All right, thanks a lot, Marcus. Right, I think that's a very interesting insight because, for example, if we were thinking of like going long on DBS, right? If you guys can see the, you can see the DBS fund flow there, right? Second from the top, right, is the 5-day long fund flow is you got 341K versus the 5-day short fund flow, which is like minus 31.5K. So you can clearly tell that there's a lot more people, institutional investors, right, going in on the DBS long, trying to long DBS, right? So that gives an interesting insight, right? Every time, even though DBS is really dropping so much now, right? Yeah, this gives an insight from a kind of like a volume perspective, right? How bullish are investors now, even though it's dropping so much, right? So just you can see the distributions over the days, right? I can see that today is slightly less, but yesterday, the previous 2 trading days, you can see that it's going a little bit more on, and this is actually very useful. It gives another dimension when you're looking at not only DBS, but when you're looking at any before you get into any setups, right? I think that if I could offer a tip, just swing by the fund flow, DLC fund flow, right? Because these are leverage, kind of trading kind of strategies, right? So it's more useful. It's very useful for those kind of short-term movements. Less so much if you're trying to hold it for like half a quarter, a quarter or maybe like half a year, but more for the little bit kind of fluctuations in between. This is a very interesting insight, right? So on top of the the DBS and the Hong Kong kind of stocks, right? Marcus, is there any other developments on the DLC front, right? Especially on the different kind of instruments that you guys might be new instruments that you guys might be introducing.
Yeah, thanks, Desmond. So something that we would like to share with everyone is definitely, as I mentioned that we want to cover Singapore and Hong Kong markets in this webcast series, at least in the pilot series right now for a few months. We want to see how it goes. You cover more of Asia and Hong Kong stocks, but just to want to share with everyone that we have just started to dip our toes into the US markets with the DLCs. We just launched our S&P 500 long and short DLCs last Friday. So you can see we have a macro page, a macro site for you guys to have a look. So this is our macro site for the US DLCs. We are looking at expanding the shelf still. We have launched the 5 times long and short S&P 500 DLCs, but definitely we are intending to see what other indices we can also venture into, namely the NASDAQ 100 DLCs, NASDAQ 100 index, as well as the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index. And who knows, maybe even in the future, we can even go into Russell 2000 Growth Index. So these are some of the names that we want to have DLCs on. And it's interesting from an investor perspective because some of you might be wondering, but the US market is closed, right? And the DLCs are traded during SGX market hours. It's listed and traded on SGX market hours, right? Market hours for SGX is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's when the US market is closed. How does the DLC perform in that sense, right? So maybe just let me shed some light on over there. So the DLCs will still track the S&P 500 cash index on a close-to-close basis. That is on the cash index, S&P 500 cash index that opens during US market hours, right? But during Asian hours, during Singapore trading hours, when the DLCs are tradable, between 9 to 5 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the DLCs will track the E-minis S&P 500 futures that is traded during Asian hours on CME, right? So that's how we are able to provide that exposure to the S&P 500 index during Asian hours, even though the cash index is closed. It will be closely linked to the performance. The DLC's performance will be closely linked to the S&P E-mini futures on CME. All right, and we have provided some of that data as well. Over here, you can see, so we do provide that futures data for you to see what is the price, or the performance of the futures price, and then also what is the performance of the corresponding DLCs over here. So the DLC CYAW is the long DLC on S&P 500 index, and the stock code CZEW is the short DLC on the S&P 500 DLCs, right? And you can scroll through our mini page over here, just have a view of a quick summary of how volatile exactly is the S&P 500 index, how does it perform, as well as some of the key features of this S&P 500 index that you guys should be aware of. All right. But do look out for more indices that we want to launch, Nasdaq 100 as well as the Dow Jones Industrial Average that will be coming your way soon. So this US shelf, we have started to go into this to expand beyond regional indices and stocks. So besides our Singapore and Hong Kong stocks, we are now and indices, we're now looking into the US indices over here. So this is what we launched last Friday. Do check it out. And also there is a promotion available right now by Phillip Securities. They have launched a DLC promotion, particularly for the US DLCs, but also for any other DLCs. So if you do have a trade, your at least make 2 trades in terms of the US DLCs, the S&P 500 DLCs, or the Nasdaq 100 DLCs that will come your way soon, you'll be able to get $200 in cash credit. But if you trade any 5 transactions in any DLCs, you will also get that 200 cash credit, right? So please look out for, do have a look at this promotion that Phillip Securities has started running for the DLCs, just to, see if you are interested in trading already, this promotion, definitely please look out for it as well, for this $200 cash credit that you can get.
Right. Thank you very much, Marcus. Right. I think it's a very good point, right? That the especially on understanding how you can actually trade the S&P, right? Even when during Asian hours, right? So for those of you guys who are interested in trading, the S&P, right? Just that you can't stay the US session, right? This is actually a really good option, I feel.
Yeah.
Right. So thanks for sharing.
It's not so intuitive, so just be careful of that. It follows the e-mini features during Asian hours, and if you hold it overnight, you are getting exposed to the US market as well. So you can choose to open and close your position within Asian hours easily, because we as the designated market maker will be there to provide liquidity. But if you choose to hold your position overnight, then do note that you are also exposing yourself to the US cash market at night. So you're taking exposure to both Asian hour news flow as well as US market news flow. So do take note of that in terms of what you're getting exposed to. But definitely this DLCs will be a very nice way to get that flexibility in terms of getting exposure during Asian hours, when some of the news flows during Asian hours could be quite material and it could impact the US markets as well, and you could get in early with the DLC.
All right. Thank you so much, Marcus. Right. And guys, so that more or less concludes our first episode of this moving markets series, right? So if you have questions, especially suggestions, on the different kind of formats, and also the kind of people that you want to see us reach out to, right? Whether it's key opinion leaders, right? Other traders in the Singapore space, right? They want us to kind of speak to, right? Get their insights on how they navigate the market during these tricky times, some of the strategies that they use, right? Let us know, right? You can, whether it's in the comments or whether it's reaching out directly to the guys at InvestingNote, right? Just let them know that, hey, it'd be pretty cool if if you guys actually spoke to this guy, or you want to volunteer yourself, maybe even, right? You can let us know, right? And we try to arrange something in this bi-weekly series where we take a look at what's moving in the markets, right? What has moved, what are the potentially big moves you can look at, right? In the future sessions, we'll focus quite heavily on the trading approaches, the styles of these different kind of traders, how they look at the markets, all right, how they assess opportunities, and how they get in and out of setups, right? So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Marcus, for joining us, right, and sharing your insights into DLCs and how you can use it to trade these volatile times, right? And that's it from me, guys, right? I will see you guys. Yeah. I'll see you guys next week. 2 weeks later. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
so the frequency wise also, Desmond, I mean, we do hope that we can see whether we can, if it catches on and if people like what they are seeing, and we can get more lineup of guest speakers. Definitely, we would like to make it a bit more frequent. Maybe move it from bi-weekly to weekly sessions. But it all depends on your feedback, everyone. So please let us know your feedback. We want to invite guest speakers on to give their insights and to get to know them a bit more on a personal level. Hopefully, be able to hear their honest opinions on the market, and also their style and their traits, just to get to know them. For those that we see especially all the key opinion leaders. We see their posts, we see their sort of calls, etc. But how do we really know them, etc.? So this session, hopefully, we can also get to know them in that process as well. Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Marcus. Right, and thank you everyone for staying this entire session, for watching this the session. Tune in for now. Be 2 weeks later. Otherwise, stay safe, trade safe, and peace out, guys. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.